Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we're tackling something huge, something that feels like it's creeping into every corner of modern life. It's more than just stress. We're talking about burnout syndrome.
Yeah, it's a term people throw around a lot,
Yeah.
but the actual experience,
Yeah.
it's quite specific and pretty devastating.
Exactly. So before we get into, the definitions and the clinical side, let's just check in with you listening right now. How are your energy levels? I don't just mean physically tired, but emotionally. Are
Mhm.
you like forcing yourself to get out of bed even after what should be enough sleep?
Right, that heavy feeling.
And what about things you used to love? A hobby, seeing friends, maybe some creative thing you were doing. Has that started to feel less like fun and more like, well, like extra work, something you almost dread?
That's a really key signpost, and it points towards the critical difference we need to grasp right from the start.
Yeah.
Look, everyone gets stressed, right?
Sure, stress is universal.
Stress basically feels like there's too much going on. You're overwhelmed, maybe anxious, definitely tense. Your system's activated. You're kind of fighting.
Yeah, you're engaged, even if it's negatively. You're trying to manage it all.
But burnout,
Mm.
it isn't just stress cranked up to 11. It's a fundamentally different state. It's this internal collapse where the main feeling isn't too much. It's nothing matters anymore.
Yo, that hits hard. Nothing matters anymore.
It's a complete loss of motivation, a kind of surrender. It slides into this deep hopelessness and emotional emptiness almost.
So if stress is like you're battling a storm, burnout is like you've just given up and let the waves take you.
That's a good way to put it. You don't even care if you make it to shore. That's the numbness setting in. So our goal today is to really get under the hood of this, understand how the experts classify it, who's most at risk, and it might surprise you, and crucially, map out some real actionable steps for recovery.
Okay, let's start with that classification because if you feel that drained, that hopeless, you might just think, okay, I'm depressed. But the World Health Organization, they actually categorize burnout differently, don't they?
They do, and it's an important distinction. The WHO defines burnout syndrome very specifically as a professional phenomena.
Professional.
Yeah.
So only work related?
Primarily, yes. They link it directly to chronic, unmanaged workplace stress. Now, workplace can be broad. It could be your paid job, sure, but it could also be the demands of being a full-time parent or a caregiver or even a long-term student, any role with sustained high pressure.
Okay, so it's tied to a role or occupation. But classifying it that way, does that mean it's somehow less serious than, say, clinical depression?
Absolutely not, and that's critical. Just because it's classified as an occupational issue doesn't diminish its impact. The suffering can be just as severe, just as debilitating as major depression.
That's really important. It validates the experience.
It does. And often, the path to recovery involves similar things, like therapy. The key difference in classification tells us where to look for the causes and the solutions. It points toward the interaction between the person and their environment.
Right, suggesting it's not just internal brain chemistry, but also about external pressures and how they're managed or mismanaged.
Precisely. And to actually be diagnosed or identified as burnout, according to the standard models, you really need to see three core dimensions happening together. These are like the three legs of the stool. All must be present.
Okay, let's break those down. What's the first pillar? The most obvious one, I guess.
That's the emotional and physical exhaustion.
Mm,
And we need to be clear. This is way beyond just feeling tired after a long week.
like deep fatigue.
Deep, chronic fatigue. Think of it like you've just finished running a marathon that lasted for years, not hours. Your energy reserves are completely depleted.
And the defining thing is that rest doesn't fix it, right?
Exactly. You could sleep for 10 hours, take a week off, and you still wake up feeling heavy, drained, like you're running on empty. Your nervous system has been in overdrive for so long it's forgotten how to recharge. The well is dry.
Okay, that's pillar one, total exhaustion. What's the second? This one seems more psychological.
It is. It's often called cynicism or depersonalization. This is where the damage really starts to show in how you interact with the world, especially related to your role.
What does that look like in practice?
It's developing this cold, detached, often sarcastic or mocking attitude towards your work, your colleagues, your clients, customers, whoever is involved in that stressful role.
You start rolling your eyes internally or maybe even externally.
You do. Patience evaporates. You might find yourself becoming incredibly irritable with people you used to genuinely like or want to help. Psychologically, it's kind of fascinating, actually.
How so?
It's almost like your brain's desperate attempt to conserve energy. Empathy, connection, caring, those things take emotional resources. And when you have absolutely none left,
Your brain just shuts down that connection, pushes people away.
exactly, it starts treating people like irritants or objects or just tasks to be dealt with because genuinely engaging requires energy you simply don't have. It's a protective mechanism trying to shield you from further depletion.
But a really isolating one.
Hugely isolating
Hmm.
and ultimately very damaging to relationships and performance, which leads us straight into the third pillar.
Okay, what's the third leg of the stool?
This is reduced personal accomplishment or sense of inefficacy. This is where the cognitive impact really hits home.
So you start doubting your own abilities, even if you're objectively doing well.
Precisely. This is a deep, pervasive self-doubt that settles in, regardless of external evidence. You could get a promotion, land a huge project, get glowing reviews, but internally, you feel like a fraud.
Like you're inadequate, ineffective.
Totally. There's this persistent belief that nothing I do really makes a difference anyway. Your sense of competence just collapses.
Even if everyone around you is saying, you're doing great.
Doesn't matter. The internal narrative overrides the external validation. You lose faith in your own impact. And you can see how these three feed each other, right?
Absolutely. The exhaustion makes you cynical. The cynicism makes you feel ineffective. Feeling ineffective makes the exhaustion feel pointless. It's a downward spiral.
It's a vicious cycle.
Yeah.
Exhaustion, cynicism, and efficacy. More exhaustion.
Okay, let's quickly recap that core difference again because it's so fundamental. Stress versus burnout.
Right. Stress. You feel overwhelmed. Too much going on. You're activated, anxious, tense. You're fighting, trying to cope. Think. Drowning, but thrashing to survive.
Okay. And burnout.
Burnout. You feel empty, nothing matters. You're detached, numb, hopeless. The fight is gone. Think. Drowning, but you've stopped thrashing. You're just letting go.
That shift from active struggle to passive surrender seems crucial.
It is. And it explains why recovery isn't just about de-stressing. You're not just managing anxiety. You're trying to rebuild a core sense of purpose, connection, and energy from the ground up.
Which perfectly sets up our next question. If this is such a profound collapse, who is most likely to experience it? It often seems like the most dedicated, capable people are the ones who crash the hardest.
That's exactly what the patterns suggest. It's counterintuitive, but true.
So let's dive into the anatomy of risk. What makes someone vulnerable? Is it just personality, or is it the situation?
It's usually a perfect storm of both. Personality traits meeting a specific kind of toxic environment. Let's start with the personality types most at risk.
Okay, who are they?
The biggest group, overwhelmingly, are the high achievers and the perfectionists.
Not the slackers.
Generally, no. We're talking about the people who are incredibly driven, often idealistic, maybe even workaholics. They pour everything into their work or role.
What drives them so hard?
Often, it's a deep-seated need to prove themselves, maybe stemming from feelings of inadequacy. Their self-worth gets tangled up with their productivity and achievements.
And a key behavior there is.
The inability to say no. They tend to be self-sacrificing. Taking on more is seen as competence. Setting boundaries feels like failure or letting people down.
I know that feeling. Okay, so that's the personality type. You mentioned the perfectionist trap. What's that?
This is a really nasty cognitive loop. The perfectionist doesn't just aim high. They set impossible standards. Flawless output, immediate responses, unlimited capacity.
Which means they're pretty much guaranteed to fall short in their own eyes.
Constantly. So even when they achieve great things objectively, they're always focused on the tiny flaw, the thing that wasn't perfect. They live in a state of perpetual not good enough.
So they never get that satisfying feeling of completion of a job well done.
Rarely, if ever. And that lack of internal reward, that constant feeling of failure, it just erodes their motivation over time. The internal dialogue shifts from I must be perfect to I can't be perfect, nothing's ever good enough, so why bother?
That's the slide into withdrawal and apathy.
That's the path. The very engine that drove them, that intense dedication, burns itself out because it was fueled by impossible expectations.
Okay, so you have this highly driven, perhaps perfectionistic individual. What kind of environment pushes them over the edge?
Right. The personality is only half the equation. The environment plays a huge role. We talk about environmental triggers. Two big ones consistently come up.
Let me guess. Too much work.
Not just volume, but specifically a lack of control.
Okay. Tell me more.
It's when the high achiever has little or no say over their workload, their deadlines, the methods they have to use, their priorities. They feel like a cog in a machine, powerless.
Yeah.
Their expertise might be ignored, their autonomy denied.
So even if they're capable, they feel constrained and helpless.
Exactly, and this is often paired with the second major trigger, a lack of recognition or support.
Meaning nobody notices or cares how hard they're working.
Pretty much. Little positive feedback, maybe a lack of resources, feeling unsupported by management or even colleagues. When you combine that feeling of powerlessness, no control, with feeling invisible or unappreciated, no recognition,
It fuels that cynical belief we talked about. Why bother? My effort is wasted anyway.
precisely, the environment basically confirms the burnout narrative. Your sacrifice is pointless. That combination is incredibly toxic, especially for someone already prone to self-criticism.
And this isn't just in their heads. You mentioned this takes a physical toll. Let's talk about the biology here, the physiological toll, the chronic cortisol attack.
Yes, this is crucial. Burnout isn't just mental exhaustion, it's a physical state brought on by long-term stress messing with your body's systems. Specifically, the HPA axis, the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis.
That's the body's stress response system.
Right. In healthy stress, it fires up, releases hormones like cortisol to help you deal with a threat, then calms down. But with chronic, unmanaged stress, it gets stuck in the on position.
So cortisol levels stay high all the time.
Chronically elevated, yes. And cortisol, while useful short-term, is damaging long-term. It forces your body into a constant state of emergency preparedness.
What does that actually do to you physically?
Several major things. First, it messes with your immune system. Chronically high cortisol suppresses immune function, making you more vulnerable to infections. You catch every cold, things take longer to heal.
Explains why people experiencing burnout often feel physically run down and get sick more often.
Definitely. Second, it wreaks havoc on your sleep. Cortisol should naturally dip at night to allow for deep, restorative sleep. When it's high, it disrupts your sleep cycles. You might sleep, but it's light, unrefreshing.
Contributing to that bone-deep exhaustion that sleep doesn't fix.
Exactly. And third, it impacts your digestion. Stress hormones divert resources away from the gut, leading to problems like IBS, indigestion, and it can even alter your gut microbiome, which we now know affects mood and overall health.
So the body itself starts breaking down under the constant alarm signals.
It's literally weathering a storm internally. The physical exhaustion isn't just in your head, it's a biological reality.
Looking at this whole picture, the initial enthusiasm, the high standards, the lack of control, the biological wear and tear, it really shows how burnout creeps up on you.
Yeah.
It's not sudden.
It's insidious. It starts with passion, then hits frustration and stagnation, and finally lands in that place of complete apathy and indifference. When you genuinely stop caring about the outcome, that's the system waving the white flag. It's fully collapsed.
Which brings us, thankfully, to recovery. If it's a systemic collapse, just taking a week off isn't going to cut it, is it?
Not usually, no. Recovery needs to be as intentional and systemic as the process that caused the burnout.
Okay, let's get practical. The recovery roadmap, the art of essential boundaries. What are the concrete steps someone can start taking, maybe even today?
All right, this is where the hard work begins, especially for those high-achieving types. Recovery is an active process. It often needs professional support, like therapy, because you're fundamentally rewiring ingrained habits. But here are 4 key areas to focus on.
Lay them on us. Step 1.
Step 1 has to be tackling that core issue, mastering the art of boundary setting, learning to say no, essentially.
Easier said than done for the people pleasers and perfectionists.
Absolutely. Saying no often triggers huge anxiety for them, fear of letting people down, fear of looking incompetent. So the first step is a mental reframe.
How should I reframe it?
Saying no or setting a limit isn't selfish. It's self-preservation. It's recognizing you have finite energy and protecting it is essential for survival and recovery. It's non-negotiable.
Okay, reframing it as necessary self-care. Practically, what does setting boundaries look like? Turning off work email.
That's part of it, definitely. Establishing clear cutoff times. Protecting weekends for genuine rest and activities that restore energy, not just obligation. But it's also about handling incoming requests in the moment.
Right, that automatic yes reflex when someone asks for something. How do you break that?
There's a specific tactic. When a request comes in from anyone, resist the urge to commit immediately. Instead, use a stalling phrase. Something like, let me check my current workload capacity and I'll get back to you by time frame, or I need to look into that properly before I commit. Can I respond by end of day?
Oh, I see. That buys you time.
Crucially, yes. It does two things. It respects the asker, avoiding immediate guilt, but more importantly, it interrupts your own impulsive yes. It forces a pause where you can actually assess, do I have the bandwidth for this? Will this push me further into the red? It puts you back in control of your energy allocation.
That feels powerful, a small phrase creating vital space. Okay, step 2 for recovery.
Step two is breaking the cycle of cynicism. Remember that cold, detached attitude. It pushes people away, cutting off potential support.
So reconnecting socially.
Yes, actively seeking positive social support outside the stressful environment is vital. But there's also an intervention within the environment.
Oh, what's that?
It's about consciously counteracting the cynical thoughts with action. The idea is to perform a deliberate small act of kindness or genuine appreciation towards someone connected to the source of your stress. Maybe a colleague you've become resentful towards.
Wow, that sounds incredibly difficult when you're feeling so negative and depleted. Why force it?
Because action can shift thought. That small positive act, even if forced initially, directly contradicts the internal script of everyone here is awful and incompetent. It creates a tiny cognitive
A
dissonance.
crack in the cynical armor.
Exactly. It challenges the narrative and can slowly begin to reopen pathways for connection and chip away at that isolating numbness with behavioral activation.
Okay, I can see how that might work over time. Step 3. This one sounds more physical.
Yes, addressing the body's burnout. Micro breaks in foundational physical recovery. We talked about chronic cortisol. We need ways to interrupt that constant stress signal during the day through the power of micro breaks. These aren't long lunches. We're talking 5 minutes of focused deep breathing, 10 minutes of walking away from the desk, a couple of minutes of stretching, short, frequent pauses.
What do these tiny breaks actually achieve?
They act like little circuit breakers for the stress response. They give your nervous system brief moments of calm, preventing cortisol from staying sky high all day long. They help modulate the peaks.
And the foundational part.
That's getting back to basics. Prioritizing sleep hygiene, dark, cool room, consistent schedule, focusing on nutrition that supports energy, not drains it, and incorporating gentle physical activity. Exercise is fantastic for metabolizing stress hormones. The mind can't fully recover if the body is still in crisis mode.
Makes sense. Body and mind are linked.
Okay, final step. Step 4. This sounds like the big mental shift.
It is shedding the perfectionist mask. This is about tackling the underlying cognitive driver for many burnout cases.
Accepting imperfection. Fundamentally, yes. Learning to truly internalize that good enough is often not just acceptable, but actually better than striving for an unattainable perfect. Because perfect often leads to paralysis, procrastination, and ultimately feeling like a failure.
How do you actually do that? How do you let go of perfectionism?
You need tools to break down the overwhelm. Techniques like the Pomodoro method, working in focused bursts on small, manageable chunks of a task, can help.
Why does breaking it down work?
Because it reintroduces the feeling of accomplishment. Instead of facing one giant impossible task, you complete several small, achievable ones. Each small win provides a little dopamine hit, a little proof of efficacy. It combats that reduced personal accomplishment feeling.
So you rebuild your sense of competence piece by piece.
Exactly. And the crucial daily practice here is consciously acknowledging and appreciating those small wins. Didn't procrastinate on that email. Good job. Managed to stick to your work cutoff time. Excellent. Finished one section of the report. Acknowledge it. You have to actively retrain your brain to recognize and value incremental progress, not just flawless final products.
Wow, that's a comprehensive roadmap. Exhaustion, cynicism, inefficacy, tackled through boundaries, connection, physical care, and mindset shifts.
It's a journey. Definitely not an overnight fix, but it addresses the core components of the syndrome.
This has been incredibly insightful. We have to stress that final point again, right? If someone listening feels like they're in that nothing matters anymore stage.
Please hear this. It is not weakness. It's not a character flaw. It's the predictable consequence of pushing too hard for too long, often in an environment that didn't support you. Your system, mind, and body is signaling that it needs a fundamental change.
That apathy isn't laziness, it's a distress signal. A sign your soul needs rest, deep rest, and repair.
Absolutely. Take that signal incredibly seriously. Don't hesitate to seek professional help. Therapy can be invaluable in navigating this. And internalize this. Setting boundaries, like using that "I'll get back to you" phrase, isn't selfish.
It's essential.
It's life-saving. It's protecting the most valuable resource you have, your energy.
So here's a final thought to leave you with. We talked about stress being anxious overdrive and burnout being apathy. Take a moment, reflect honestly. Is there a significant part of your life right now, your work, your health, maybe a relationship where you just feel completely apathetic, numb?
What might that numbness, that lack of feeling, actually be telling you? What vital sign is it masking about the demands you're under and whether they're truly sustainable?
Something to explore. Your system is definitely trying to communicate.
It's time to listen.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. Look after your energy, protect it fiercely, and we'll catch you next time.